There's so much power and aggression in mangaka Takehiko Inoue's famous samurai series, Vagabond. Each page of this series bleeds an intense passion for the craft of storytelling. Inoue walks the line between feral art and a fluid writing style. Readers will witness heart-stopping, blood-curdling action sequences interspliced with quiet, introspective scenes of wandering aimlessly through nature. Reading through this series just feels like a breath of fresh air. As always, the written transcript for this essay and all of my videos are available on my website, witsandpod.com. Born in Ōkuchi in the Japanese prefecture of Kagoshima in 1967, Takehiko Inoue became invested in art at a young age while also diving into manga. Some of Inoue's early influences include SHINJI MIZUSHIMA, RYOICHI IKEGAMI, and MAKOTO Kobayashi. That said, Inoue didn't want to be a mangaka until much later. When he was 21, Inoue worked as an assistant for mangaka Tsukasa Hojo, creator of City Hunter, for 10 to 11 months. In 1988, Inoue's first story, Purple Maple, was published in Shonen Jump. It won him a Tezuka Award, which is given to promising new manga artists. Outside of working as an assistant for Tsukasa, Inoue did a prep school summer program for a month and a half. According to him, this is the only formal training he had. It was his apprenticeship under Tsukasa that taught him the basics of being a mangaka. Inoue had a passion for basketball and was part of his high school's basketball club. In 1990, Shonen Jump published Inoue's first hit, Slam Dunk, a high school basketball manga that ran until 1996. Despite being known for a certain samurai manga, quite a few of Inoue's projects focus on basketball. These include his debut story, Purple Maple from 1988, Slam Dunk from 1990, Buzzer Beater from 1996, and Real from 1999. He even created a scholarship called the Slam Dunk Scholarship in 2006 with Shueisha, which is the publisher that puts out Weekly Shonen Jump where Slam Dunk was published. The scholarship gives students a chance to study abroad in the US and continue playing basketball at a college or professional level if they choose to go in that direction. A cool detail is that the scholarship is funded partly by Inoue's Slam Dunk royalties. According to a 2005 interview in Manga Masters of the Art, after Slam Dunk's completion in 1996, Inoue took some time away from drawing manga. An editor from Morning recommended Miyamoto Musashi to me, so I read it, Inoue said during the interview. In that interview, Inoue said he wanted to quit manga after Slam Dunk. The novel the editor gave him inspired Inoue to tell a new story. That story became Vagabond. Inoue's Vagabond is a reinterpretation of Eiji Yoshikawa's 1939 novel, Musashi. The novel is a fictional retelling of the actual swordsman, strategist, writer, poet, calligrapher Shinmen Takezo, better known as Miyamoto Musashi. Inoue's development of Vagabond was fused with his desire to learn more about Japanese history. However, while producing his reinterpretation of Yoshikawa's novel, the mangaka has said that he was never working on a history textbook. After Slam Dunk, Inoue worked on Vagabond, which he decided to produce after rethinking his retirement as a mangaka. Inoue's samurai manga debuted in 1998 in Morning, a seinen manga magazine published by Kodansha. Alright, I've talked about Musashi's life in writing and videos over the years. However, for those who are new, let's do this once more. Born in 1584, Musashi accomplished many feats in his life. His life has been depicted in different mediums like prose, film, animation, with Inoue's manga arguably being the most well-known. One of Musashi's most famous accomplishments is the fact that he won over 60 duels. His most infamous duel is against Kojiro Sasaki on Ganryu Island in 1612, where Musashi allegedly used sunlight to blind Sasaki before using a club to defeat his opponent. Despite this, Musashi and Sasaki were reported to have immense respect for each other. Some accounts describe Musashi as a bloodthirsty killer. The general consensus across historical accounts and fictional depictions show Musashi as a warrior striving for lifelong self-improvement. Before his death in 1645, at the age of 61, Musashi spent his time writing down his teachings while living at Regondo Cave. Musashi passed on his strategy guides in the form of the Book of Five Rings and the Dokudo to his disciples. In the Earth Scroll of the Book of Five Rings, Musashi said, quote, "That which a warrior must always have in his mind is the way of death." Yoshikawa's novel popularized Musashi's story, but it's also influenced other depictions of the swordsman. One example is director Hiroshi Inagaki's samurai trilogy starring the legendary and versatile Toshiro Mifune. The films in order are Musashi Miyamoto from 1954, Duel at Ichijoji Temple from 1955, and Duel at Ganryu Island from 1956. Compared to the novel, the trilogy is more serious and grounded. Yoshikawa occasionally treats his story with levity. Inoue would do the same in his manga, mixing brutal action and meditative scenes with silliness. While the manga is based on a historical figure, it's based more on Yoshikawa's fictional, romanticized version of it. The manga follows scrappy young Shinmen Takezo as he strives to become the strongest living swordsman, a goal initially born out of hubris that becomes a lifelong journey of self-mastery, a journey of forging himself into history's seminal samurai. Inoue takes the painstaking but appreciated task of expanding on moments from the novel. Despite scenes of Musashi dominating enemies in battle, the story of Vagabond feels like a leisurely stroll than a race to the finish. Unlike the films, Inoue isn't working with a time frame. He doesn't need to cut out any material. Each character scene or moment of action and introspection is given room to breathe and grow in these intricately brushed black and white pages. Yoshikawa planted the seeds of this Musashi mythology. Inoue waters them, tends to them, and helps them blossom. While it's a story about samurai, Vagabond is insanely human. It's a story about growth. Inoue puts his characters through the ringer, forcing them to grow and learn from their mistakes after falling from grace. That's the power of this story, showing and teaching growth with the passing of time. Shinmen Takezo, this selfish, violent, destructive orphan, makes himself accountable for his behavior. Through his own drive, and with the help of characters like the priest Takwon, Takezo focuses his childish anger and bloodlust. He painstakingly shapes himself into the vessel of discipline that is Musashi, by fighting powerful opponents, testing his limits, and becoming more kind and conscientious of the world around him. The characters in this manga, like Musashi, Matahachi, Otsu, and Takwon, among others, aren't perfect. They make mistakes. They keep working at it. The growth comes from when they learn from their mistakes. It's about as human as things can get. Throughout those thousands of black and white inky pages, Musashi cuts down foes with primal ferocity. Just reading through the series shows Inoue's growth as a mangaka and his passion for storytelling. Not only is this a story of someone's life, it was produced over years of Inoue's life. One of Inoue's influences is director Akira Kurosawa. According to his master's interview, Inoue transitioned to using the brush to achieve a film-like gravity to his artwork.
これが一番楽しい僕が筆で描いているそのこと自体が日本の漫画家の中では割と珍しいことだと思います。で、筆の場合はもっと自由が利く。で、偶然性とかコントロールを超えたところに筆が行ったりかすれたりとか、そういう面白さがあるので。
Over the years, Inoue has spoken about the grueling production process for a mangaka. Long hours at the drawing table foregoing sleep in order to produce pages and hit deadlines. On the consumer end of things, this is something people don't seem to realize. When it comes to creation, deadlines, and publication, these stories don't just happen. Behind the scenes, human beings are behind the stories that enthrall us. Manga has this ability to be fast-paced, almost inviting a reader to quickly flip to the next page. Inoue will throw in scenes that floor readers, forcing them to stop in their tracks. When Inoue uses a heart-stopping action sequence or a quiet spread, it's almost as if he's saying stop. Take time to appreciate the story. That would be understandable seeing as he spent time and energy diligently bringing each detail to life on the page in black ink. In 2015, Inoue put Vagabond on hiatus. At this point, Vagabond fans have been waiting a long time with bated breath with no sign of relief. It's not like Inoue is retired. He's still working on other projects like his wheelchair basketball series Real from 1999 to now, a film he wrote and directed based off his slam dunk series called The First Slam Dunk. That seems to be going well for him. It's that the grueling pressures of being a mangaka and unrealistic fan expectations would be understandably cumbersome. During a 2022 interview promoting The First Slam Dunk, Inoue did express interest in returning for a continuation or ending of Vagabond. Here are his words. Quote, "I cannot wait to draw it." With the length of the hiatus, that's still a non-committal answer. The hiatus makes me think of Musashi's journey, that drive to want to become a better swordsman. For Musashi, it didn't happen in one go, and it took a lifetime to get there. Musashi took detours to get to his end goal. If Inoue wants to keep Vagabond on hiatus to focus on life or work on other projects like Real, there's nothing anyone can do to stop him. Let's be real, basketball is such an integral part of Inoue's DNA. His earliest stories that broke him into the manga scene were basketball based. After finishing Slam Dunk, he wanted to retire. The fact that an editor gave him a copy of Yoshikawa's novel is what inspired Inoue to keep telling stories in the first place. It almost feels like, despite its impact, Vagabond was made on borrowed time from the start. It's amazing that Inoue channeled the drive to get that story out with how particular he is about his creative process. This is decades of creative pressure pushing at one person as millions of people wait in anticipation for the next chapter. The life of a mangaka is grueling when it comes to workload. Inoue already paid his dues. If he chooses to put less pressure on himself, that's a win for him. Before his final showdown against Sasaki, Musashi spent time holed up in the countryside carving statues and farming. It's a mix of fear, pressure, and reverence for the inevitable finale. There's this whole entitlement aspect that when people like something, they feel ownership over it. Liking Inoue's work doesn't equate to the right to expect him to do what his audience wants when they want it. In 2008, Inoue held an exhibition for Vagabond that contained over 100 pieces of art, some of which haven't been printed in the actual story. A few infamous pieces from the exhibition depict the final days of Musashi's life in Inoue's style. So even though the Yoshikawa novel exists, it's possible to see what Inoue had in mind for the Master Swordsman's introspective ending. There's actually an entire catalog of the pieces collected, so at least it's possible to physically hold the art and take it in. The catalog is insanely hard to find though. Not only is Vagabond Inoue's story, it's his life story. At this point, he should be able to tell it however he wants, especially if he wants to take time for himself or focus on telling stories about one of his greatest passions, basketball. He's still fully involved with the Slam Dunk scholarship and working on his film projects like the first Slam Dunk along with his Real series. Like Musashi, Inoue should be allowed to wander a little before the finale. There's a book called Manga, Masters of the Art by Timothy Lehman from 2005 that has a pretty solid interview with Inoue. I've talked about Musashi in different forms over the years, and I wasn't planning on covering every little moment in Vagabond individually. With the work that goes into each page, Vagabond really does feel like a visual and narrative gift to manga. Reading or rereading it feels like taking in a breath of fresh air. As always, the full transcripts of each of my essays along with my videos are available for perusal on my website, it'snpod.com. If it's not on my website, it's not me, except no substitutes. The other two recent essays I did cover the artist Billy Graham and David Lapham's Stray Bullets, which is also hiatus themed. Chaos ensues.